Thank you.
I thank the honourable member and I call the member for Chisholm.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Today, I wish to talk about several measures in the new budget that will benefit my electorate of Chisholm, Victorians, and the greater Australian community. The Morrison Government has carefully designed a plan to help breathe life back into the Australian economy. As a Victorian living through the lockdown, I've witnessed the severe impact COVID has had on our economy. I can tell you with certainty that I talk about these budget measures with a strong sense of relief. This budget is for all Australians, keeping food on the table for families, people in jobs, and the doors for businesses open. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the Australian people stand to greatly benefit from this budget. Soon, many hard-working Australians will begin to feel the positive effects of the Morrison Government's tax relief measures. We understand that for families to keep food on the table, it's vital that they keep more of the money that they make in their back pocket. That's why the government will deliver an additional $17.8 billion in personal income tax relief to support Australia's economic recovery. Australians are best placed to know how to spend their own money. In my own electorate of Chisholm, 74,000 taxpayers will see up to $2,745 of their hard-earned cash given back to them. This budget isn't just about tax relief. It's our government that understands how tough young people have been doing it throughout COVID-19. For a young person, getting a job during the pandemic has become more and more difficult. Under the new Job Maker program, the strain of trying to secure employment will be dramatically reduced. The Job Maker hiring credit will help accelerate growth in employment during the recovery by giving businesses incentives to take on additional employees between the age of 16 to 35. It is estimated that the Job Maker hiring credit will support around 450,000 positions for young Australians. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the Morrison Government understands that the solution of getting Australians back into the workforce needs to be multifaceted. It is for this reason that the Job Maker program emphasises skills development. The government's commitment to Job Maker will support getting people into jobs and ensure that Australians have the right skills for the jobs of the future. This means supporting up to 100,000 new apprenticeships and traineeships through an additional $1.2 billion investment into the Boosting Apprenticeships Wage Subsidy, investing $252 million over 2 years to support the delivery of 50,000 higher education short courses in areas of teaching, health, information technology, science and agriculture, and giving more Australians the opportunity to gain a university degree in 2021 by supporting the delivery of 30,000 additional university places. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the Morrison Government is committed to ensuring that Australians are job ready, with jobs waiting for them when they complete their training. The coalition government recognises that for women in the workplace, it hasn't always been easy. So, in addition to the Job Maker credit, the skills development programs, this budget supports women by providing over $240 million in funding, building on the government's ongoing commitment to deliver for women. But it doesn't just stop there. Supporting women in STEM study and STEM skills jobs is a priority. That's why the Morrison government is providing $25 million to assist women through STEM industry cadetships or advanced apprenticeships, whilst also expanding the Women in STEM and Entrepreneurialism program over 2 years from 2022 to 23. These are just the highlights of a range of commitments and policies that we have carefully tailored to the task of supporting Australian women in the workforce, Mr. Deputy Speaker. It's not just individuals, but Chisholm businesses that stand to benefit from this budget. Our local businesses have been hit hard by COVID-19. Health restrictions in Victoria have forced many shops and businesses' premises to close their doors or reduce capacity. Meanwhile, the bills have continued to rack up. There is no doubt that businesses are up against it due to the COVID recession, but the Morrison government is committed to giving them a fighting chance. This year, the cash flow boost has already delivered more than $28 billion in support to keep 800,000 Australian small and medium-sized businesses afloat. The initiative JobKeeper program has also cushioned the blow of lockdown restrictions, providing $101 billion lifeline and helping businesses to maintain the crucial connection with their employees. Thanks to JobKeeper, so many Chisholm businesses have survived and poised to fire again when restrictions are eased. Our economic recovery plan for Australia, presents in this year's budget, delivers several further important measures that will bolster the engine room of the Australian economy. That's our private sector. Firstly, to unlock investment, over 99% of Chisholm and Australian businesses will be able to write off the full value of any eligible asset they purchase for their business. Whether it's the manufacturer expanding their production line, the sole trader purchasing a car to help them to deliver their wares, or the entrepreneur working from home investing in new tech. This write-off will give businesses the kickstart they need to thrive post-COVID. It will also create tens of thousands of jobs. This is a win for every sector of our economy. But the small businesses that buy, sell, deliver, and install the purchased asset will really benefit. Secondly, let's talk about manufacturing, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Manufacturing employs around 860,000 Australians, including around 4,000 workers in my electorate of Chisholm. It is the key to our economic future. Aussie manufacturers stepped up during the pandemic, and now the Morrison government is backing them to create jobs and drive our economic recovery. Our $1.5 billion targeted modern manufacturing strategy will help Chisholm manufacturers to scale up and take on the world. It will assist them to seize market growth opportunities in our national manufacturing priority areas of food and beverage manufacturing, resource technology, medical products, recycling and clean energy, defense industry, and space industry. This isn't just great news for Chisholm manufacturers, but for the whole nation. World-class manufacturing will drive our economic recovery and deliver a prosperous future for Australians. On top of this, we are helping businesses to hire young enthusiastic workers with our job maker hiring credit, reducing the cost and time it takes businesses to access credit, reforming insolvency laws to support business recovery, and expanding access to small business tax concessions to reduce pressure on businesses and allow them to invest in the future. Mr. Deputy Speaker, it was suggested by a member of the opposition in the House of Representatives yesterday that each budget reflects the values of the government that hands it down. I wholeheartedly agree. The coalition government is the party of small business, the party of business in general, I would say, and this budget proves it. The private sector, as I mentioned previously, is the engine room.
The honourable member wishes to...
Yeah, I just wanted to seek an intervention under Standing Order 66A.
Does Mr. Wu wish to accept the intervention?
What does that mean?
Well, it just means I ask you a question.
He wants to ask you a question. You don't have to accept his request, but...
I was just wondering whether she was going to talk about the cuts to New Start.
Yeah.
As long as it's related to the speech, she can accept it or choose not.
Well, she could not.
You can choose not to...
No.
No. You don't want to talk about the cuts to New Start, the cuts to JobKeeper, if they reflect your values? Just wondering.
The budget goes a long way to helping businesses and people alike in keeping money in their wallet and their doors open. But some groups of people need specialised help. As someone who suffers from hearing loss, I understand the plight of the deaf society. While they have come a long way in terms of raising awareness and supporting one another, they still require resources to accomplish these things. The Morrison Government recognises this. We understand that there are groups out there that need extra and special attention. I can proudly say that the Morrison Government will deliver for the hard of hearing community by implementing key initiatives from the roadmap for hearing health through the investment of over $21 million. It's not just the hard of hearing community that will benefit. Another key community group that the government will address is Australians from diverse ethnic backgrounds. As a proud member of a multicultural community, I have seen our recent and long-term migrants to be resilient, hardworking, kind, and diligent. At times tough, there can be a disconnect between multicultural communities and Australian governments. We saw this during the early stages of the second wave of COVID in Victoria. The Victorian government was unable to effectively communicate the dangers and risks of the pandemic. The Morrison government recognises the need to address this problem and has committed over $17 million to boost the community liaison officer network.
The member is entitled to be heard in silence.
Officers with dual language skills in an effort to enhance engagement with these communities at a grassroots level so more quiet Australians can be heard. And finally, I'm proud to discuss the government's commitment to addressing domestic violence. I myself have seen the sadness caused by domestic violence or any kind of bullying. I understand how terribly lonely and terrifying it can be. I understand that this feeling can be amplified during times of global crisis. So I speak to all Australians who have or are experiencing domestic violence. I say this, we are here for you. The budget builds on previous commitment to help women and children safe and ensuring access to justice by providing the family and family court with an additional $10.2 million. So, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I just want to reiterate that this budget is for all Australians, and this budget is a proud budget from the government.
I
Thank
the
you.
honourable member, and I call the member for Clark.